Imagine with me, you're living a boring life from home to work and from work to home, and without any warning, you find yourself stuffed into the body of someone you don't even know. And from here, you get to use magic, meet dragons, go on adventures, and the world goes completely crazy. Our story begins with Takro. We learn that he's a 30-year-old employee riding public transport to go to work. We learn that he's fed up with his life because his day repeats almost every day. The same job, the same commute, the same everything. Even though this is supposed to be the normal life for any young man his age and should be comfortable for him. But he's sure there's something else, something different he can do. And then while he's sitting minding his own business, watching TV, he's surprised by a very bright light that emerges. Without any warning, he suddenly finds himself sitting in a strange place with a person in front of him welcoming him. He doesn't understand anything and asks him, "Who are you, for God's sake?" And this guy says to him, "Well, you could consider me the supervisor of the solar system." Takro then says to him, "So understand, are you an alien or what is this talk?" And he says to him, "Well, not exactly right, but something close to that." Anyway, after that, we see him using his magic skill and an image of a planet appears before him. He starts to learn that its name is Medius, and no matter how many times matters progress there, they always get out of control, and the civilizations there always collapse without any warning. That's why I'm forced to intervene personally from time to time. He then lifts the cup in front of him, puts a drop of water on it, and lets him know that this single drop can change the entire world. That's why I brought you today, so you can become the bead that must change this world. Takro says to him, "What are you talking about, man? Change whose world? How can you even say such things to me? I'm just an ordinary person," he says to him. "Look, in any case, if you don't agree to this offer, you will simply disappear from existence." Takro says to him, "What is this nonsense you're saying? And how can you talk to me as if it's a casual topic that I might disappear from existence? Look, just don't get worked up. I'm not sending you there empty-handed. I can give you any gifts you ask for, and also all the abilities you want." Up until now, he's not comprehending the talk. He says to him, "Wait a second, what kind of gifts are you talking about?" He says to him, "Look, the abilities I'm talking about are that you can use magical power." So he writes on the form he has, and Takro doesn't understand anything and says, "What magic, man, are you talking about?" Let's see, he starts to think for a bit and says to him, "But I want some really awesome companions, but don't rush your livelihood. You'll meet all that on your journey anyway. Look, I'll give you a skill to my taste. You can use the exploration skill, so you can gather materials and sell them to earn some money and funds. Just great. Isn't that right?" But the old man sacrifices and insists on giving him a bag where he can store everything he wants. "I will grant you the language of this world so you can communicate with the humans there." Then, Takro is standing, surprised that his legs are starting to fade from the place. "You see, time's up. If you had listened to me, you'd be there by now, early and eating." Then he starts screaming, saying to him, "Man, what you're saying. Fine, okay, send me there. And speak calmly without screaming, and don't worry, everything will be just fine." Then we see everything start to fade away before him. He says, "Uh-oh, I feel like I'm about to get screwed over right now." Anyway, my friend, after moments, the story tells us we see Takro beginning to wake up in his new body. He's surprised to find himself in a forest and says, "Wow, so this thing is real? It wasn't a dream." He starts asking himself, "So what am I supposed to do now? What's the deal?" He says to himself that he's now in the forest and there's no one around him, so he should go to the nearest city. He starts walking through the forest, and after a while of walking just fine, we see he finally manages to get out of that dense forest and reaches the nearest village. But he says to himself, "Wait a second, I'm broke, and if I go there without anything, I probably won't find food or drink." Suddenly, he remembers the exploration skill that the great guy gave him. Through it, he can gather resources to sell so he can earn some money, funds, and cash. So he says, "Let's give it a shot," and he tries to use the exploration magic, but nothing happens. He feels frustrated and says, "Uh-oh, was that guy lying to me? No, I think I pronounced that word wrong." He starts trying different pronunciations, saying words like search, and we see the exploration spell finally activate. As soon as he looks around, he's surprised to see strange marks surrounding him everywhere, through which he can pinpoint the location of the resources he can gather. He realizes he can only activate the exploration magic when he pronounces the correct word. Anyway, after that, we see him approach one of the plants and tries to examine it through his system to know its abilities. And he starts as usual, finally managing to activate the appraisal. Through it, he can learn that the plant in his hand is of B rank, and this puts him at the peak of success because this magic is very useful. After that, he gets up and goes to gather all the resources marked by his system. After he manages to gather some resources like Felgol, but it's just forced, and I think these resources will serve the purpose. But the problem for him is that most of them are of low. Then he notices a stone among the plants, and when he picks it up, he sees that it looks beautiful. So he tries to use the appraisal skill on it. and here comes the shock for him. What he's holding in his hand is a mirror stone, and not just that, it's of high. After the system discovery, he learns that all specialized resources have a specific mark. After he puts all the resources he collected into his bag, he's excited and wants to know exactly how much he can earn from the resources he gathered. And since it's getting late, he tries to go to the village before dark falls. Indeed, we see him reach the village guards. The guard is basically asleep, and when he first sees him, he says, "Who are you?" He starts introducing himself, saying he's just a traveler, nothing more. The guard notices that he's very tall. He says to him, "So, are you a warrior or a swordsman, or what's the deal?" He says to him, "No man, what are you talking about? I came here to sell some resources, that's all." He says to him, "A specialist in gathering resources? That's very rare." He says to him, "Anyway, my name is Marur, one of the village guards." Before letting him into the village, he says to him, "Look, we don't have specialized resource shops here, but there's a big store that buys everything from." When Takro enters the village, we notice that he's taller than the people present, and he attracts attention with the people's glances. He's extremely embarrassed. But anyway, he continues on his way until he reaches the shop. As soon as he enters the shop, the old man there starts talking to him and says, "Who are you? I haven't seen you before. Are you looking for something specific? Buy them." After that, he takes out the stone he found in the forest, and the old man is astonished and scrutinizes it. He's amazed because the item in his hand is called a rose ant-eater hammer, and it's strong and in excellent condition. "Honestly, I'm surprised you managed to get something like this. What do you say I buy it from you right now for 5 silver coins? Takro says to him, "Honestly, I don't know the prevailing prices, so maybe you could give me some background on them, or you could tell me how much a night at the inn costs so I can do my best." The old man says to him, "Look, sir, staying at the inn for one night costs 500 lala. Anyway, as for the single silver coin, it's worth 1,000 lala." Our friend starts calculating for the items he brought. He's surprised they are worth 50,000 lala. The old man says to him, "So, do you agree to the deal?" He says to him, "Sure thing, boss." The old man is extremely happy to the point that he starts pinching his cheek and says to him, "You fool, do you know what you're pinching on your cheek exactly?" We see the old man says to him, he says to you, "If you have other resources, show them to me, maybe I'll buy them from you." Takro says to him, "Is that all?" He gets up and takes out all the things he collected from the heart of the forest. The old man is amazed and says to him, "You managed to gather all this by yourself, you son of a..." Takro says, "All there is to it is that I was traveling between countries and collecting things, meaning these are from the road." The old man says to him, "Since you're a specialist in gathering resources, I have a job for you that's just great." Takro says to him, "I don't have a problem, but can you clarify for me what kind of job you want me to do exactly?" The old man says, "I don't have any problem, but you must focus with me. I want you to go now and gather mithril ore from the eastern mountain." He says, "I don't have any problem, but do you have a map of that place?" The old man says to him, "Easy and simple since we've..." After that, he gets up and takes out a bundle of lala and says to him, "What do you think, sir, about taking 350,000 lala in exchange for the resources you brought me today?" Takro says, "This amount is worth about 3.5 million Japanese lala." But the old man says, "Look at the paper before you go there. I must warn you, there are many monsters there. The situation is on you. You are a young man and you're awesome, and I'm not worried about you in that regard." He says to him, "Wow, are you telling me this now?" Anyway, after our friend leaves the old man, he goes to the nearest inn and really wants to take a solid shower to relax a bit. While he's sitting, we see a young girl entering and letting him know that they brought him some hot water, that their inn provides this service for a small fee. Takro is surprised by this and says to her, "Wait a second, what am I supposed to do with this water exactly?" She says to him, "Well, I'm the one who should be telling you. You can wash your body, your hands, and your face." With this talk, and since you're an adventurer and keep tiring yourself out for nothing, you should, like to clean yourself. Takro says to her, "Actually, I want to take a shower. Where is the bathroom?" The girl says to him, "Bathroom? What bathroom are you talking about, man? Those things are only for the nobles." Takro here takes the shock. He says, "Wow, why do you keep surprising me?" She says to him, "Look, I heard that some mages have magical abilities that allow them to clean themselves, something like that, similar to a quick shower." He says, "Wow, why do you keep surprising me?" She says to him, "Look, I heard that some mages have magical abilities that allow them to clean themselves, something like that, similar to a quick shower, but unfortunately that talk isn't available in our village at all." Hearing this, he is amazed and says to her, "Miss, why didn't you tell me from the beginning?" So he decides to take the hot water from her and gives her some lala and says to her, "Keep the change for your sake." After that girl leaves him and walks away, he starts as usual, with the incantation until he manages to reach the correct incantation in less than a moment. The water starts cleaning him from every part. After he finishes, we see the guy literally shines as if he just came from the agency. Our friend is extremely happy but says to himself, since I love bathrooms anyway, this won't suit me in the future, but never mind. On the second day, we see Takro goes to the forest and starts gathering resources. The appraisal and exploration skills make it easy for him to gather high-value resources. While gathering resources, he notices a mark he sees for the first time among the herbs. So, he approaches that mark. Here comes the shock for him. He finds a corpse in front of him. What the hell is this dirty talk? We didn't agree on this. But still, he's curious and tries to use the appraisal skill on the items next to the corpse. They turn out to be very valuable, but it's not clear what level they are exactly. So he decides to take this sword that's thrown on the ground. You know that honoring the dead is by burying him. So he tries to bury him and continues gathering resources until night falls upon him. So he tries to surround himself with a circle and activates the barrier magic for it. After that, he tries to cook and relax and make some food for himself. He had planned with some spices and puts meat on them. When he finishes cooking, he starts eating and finds that he made something awesome, to be honest. After he goes to his state, he tries to go deeper into that forest more and more until he reaches the forest of white trees. This forest actually has a name too and is known as the Ancient Dragon Forest. And as we learned from the old man, this forest is dangerous and full of monsters. We know he must cross this forest to reach the eastern mountains and start gathering mithril ore. He starts delving into the forest and uses magic to start lighting his way through the plants he starts collecting. He realizes that this area has neither monsters nor living creatures, so he takes advantage of this situation for his own benefit and starts advancing further and further into this forest to get out of it as quickly as possible. And this foolish security exits the forest, but we see him falling off a cliff. But he stays quiet, and we see he's about to fall and break his neck. He tries to use flight magic and starts improvising incantations until he finally manages to activate it. He keeps using this skill, managing to land on the ground safely. When he looks ahead, he's surprised to find that he has actually landed in a mine, and in front of him are many ores that he must extract. In the meantime, we see he doesn't waste time and takes out his small sickle and starts digging for minerals. The first thing he manages to extract is silver ore, which makes him excited. Some time passes just fine, but unfortunately, he hasn't found anything related to mithril ore yet, so he tries to use his exploration skill on the widest scope. Indeed, he manages to pinpoint the location of some ores, but they are in a place deeper than the rest. While he's standing without any warning, we see an earthquake occurs. So he tries not to waste time and starts using fire magic to blast that dam. When his flame approaches the place where the ore is, he blasts. When he approaches the hole he made, he's surprised that he can indeed gather some mithril ore, but this amount isn't sufficient and is small anyway. He's standing, we see another earthquake occurs in the place, so he hurries himself and starts exploring this place more and more. He starts walking among the caves until he manages to reach a place from which a strange blue light is emanating. When he approaches the source, here comes the shock for him. He sees very clear water. He is amazed by what he's seeing because it's the first time in his life he sees water with such an appearance. He becomes very curious about this water, so he tries to use the appraisal skill on it. It turns out to be magical and of SS rank. This puts him at the peak of excitement because this is the greatest discovery he has managed to discover so far. Through the appraisal skill, he can tell that this water is saturated with ancient dragon mana, without a doubt. So, he's sure that this dragon must be living here. So he wants to take some of this water from them, but at the same time we start hearing a strange voice. It starts talking to him and asks him, "How dare you wake me from my sleep?" But it becomes clear to us that Takro isn't even hearing this voice. As soon as he touches the water, we see a strange creature starting to emerge from it. Our story is by God's will, and he doesn't understand anything that's happening. He's surprised that a giant dragon appears before. I'm telling you, I've been talking to you since earlier, why don't you answer my questions? On top of all that, I'm not finished. You managed to withstand my pressure, contrary to expectations. Exactly. We see Takro starts apologizing to this entity that he entered his home without permission. The dragon, for his part, is also by God's will in his story, not understanding the being in front of him. He says to him, "Are you foolish, my son? By God, you're foolish. But take it easy at first. Who are you?" Our friend starts introducing himself, that his name is Takro and he's one of the humans. The dragon is amazed and says to him, "You're a human, but an immense amount of magic is emanating from you, so awesome that it woke me from the stasis I was." Takro says to him, "Magical power overwhelming. What are you talking about, man? Honestly, I don't understand anything from you." The dragon says to him, he says to you, "Don't play dumb. The magical power emanating from you could rival my own magical power. Takro says to him, look, excuse me for the question I'm asking you. Are you the ancient dragon, the owner of the forest outside that everyone is talking about? The dragon says to him, correct, and introduces himself, and his name is Flauties. Takro says to him, wait, Flauties, I'm telling you, can I just give the name Flu right away? The dragon says to him, even though I feel it, but call me whatever you want to call me. He learns that he wants a request from him. Since you're so awesome, he says to him, no offense, what do you want from me exactly so my mind doesn't go left? Flu says to him, all there is to it is that I want you to use this magical power of yours to revitalize my child. Takro says to him, revitalize, man? What are you talking about? I'll simplify it for you. As you see, this place is saturated with mana that doesn't allow dragon eggs to hatch. But be careful, the request I'm asking of you, you're not doing it for fun or for the homeland. No, there will be a reward. Just as the dragon puts his finger in the water, we see an amount of mithril ore appears before Takro. When our friend uses the appraisal skill on it, he learns that this mithril ore isn't like any ore. It is from the purest mithril ores, so he says to him, done, boss. Where is the egg you're talking about? Who says to him, since we've agreed, he then proceeds to take out the egg for him. The egg is completely black. The first time he sees its size, he is amazed because it's truly huge. After he holds this egg, he starts talking to the dragon and says to him, no offense, what exactly do I do with this egg and how? Flu says to him, easy, honestly. All there is to it is that you channel your magical power in. Takro says, no, explain the matter to me, I don't understand anything. The dragon says to him, the matter is easy and simple. He says to him, just like you made that ball of light, put a drop of the same mana into the egg. Takro then starts turning the matter over in his mind and understands that he must warm the egg. Indeed, he starts feeding it with his mana to try to warm it. All of this is unjust for him because this egg isn't normal and starts swallowing his mana. At the same time, we see this dragon is extremely happy and keeps laughing discreetly. And from here, our friend becomes sure that he has been tricked. Tell me guys, I just arrived in this world, and you want to pull a fast one on me so early? The matter doesn't stop for us, because his body starts to fade, and in a few moments he finds himself in a strange place, as if he's drowning in water. Suddenly he starts hearing the voice of the same person he met the first time. What's with this situation, boss? You like to do reckless things from time to time. So after that, we see he appears before him and says, normally when dragons appear before humans, they get scared out of their minds and run away. But you are different and you decided to change all the rules. He says to him, what are you talking about, man? I don't understand anything from you. But he reassures him and lets him know he will understand everything in due time. And as for the generous abilities I gave you before, I see they are not sufficient for you, and that's why I decided to weaken. And be careful, boss, since you wish to have a funny partner, then bear what will happen. Yes, I'm sure he will cause you some troubles, but he will be useful for you in the future. But Takro doesn't get a chance to understand anything from him, and after that, he faints. After a few moments, he starts to wake up again and finds himself in the same cave with the dragon. This time, he isn't hearing the dragon's voice alone, but there's another voice too. To find out the source of this voice, he tries to use the light skill to start seeing what's around him. He's surprised that the egg has hatched and a small dragon has come out of it. The first time our friend sees it, he is extremely happy because this is the son of the awesome dragon. The small dragon, for his part, the first time he sees him, jumps on him as if he's his mother. But Takro can't stand his smell, which of course has just come out of the egg, and its smell is rotten to the extreme. As for the dragon Lotus, he starts talking to Takro and asks him to name this righteous child. Takro is stumped and says to him, what are you talking about, man? You name him, you're the father, not me. The dragon Lotus lets him know that he does indeed have a name, but the name you give him will be his real name. Takro says to him, well, wait a second, let's sit and think. After a bit of thinking just fine, he says to him, what do you think of the name? Since you only pronounce one word, which is Bao Bao. This small dragon, the first time he hears his new name, is extremely happy about it. After that, Lotus starts talking to his son. He says to him, look, Luri, I want you to leave this cave and start exploring the whole world. So we see Takro and this small dragon become a team together. He is amazed by what's happening. He says to him, what are you talking about, man? You're his father, meaning you're supposed to show him the world, not me. But Lotus says to him, there's no need for this talk now. Since you are a good person and also so awesome, with great magical power, with this, I can entrust my son to you, and I am reassured. After that, we see Lotus starts using his power and does something in his direction. After that, he starts to submerge in the water, and before he disappears completely, he lets him know that he is relying on him for everything. As for Takro, after they manage to gather some mithril just fine, he starts talking to him and says to him, He says to you, boss, from today we will be able to go on trips and gather resources and will be awesome and cool to the extreme. But before anything, your smell is rotten. So he tries to use purification magic on him and cleans him. And up to here, my friend, we have reached the end of the first episode of Takero's story. So you're like, share and smooth subscribe, and let's get this video to 100,000 likes, and wait for us in the new parts of Takero's story. After that, we see Takeru after a while walking just fine. They finally managed to get out of the cave they were in. It's the first time for this baby dragon to leave the cave, so he's extremely excited and bouncing all over the place. As for Takeru, he realizes that traveling through the forest at night will be dangerous, and on top of that, he's hungry. So he starts talking with Pi, and they decide to camp together for the night. He starts preparing things. The first thing he does is open the backpack and finds it full of water, my friend. This is the same water found in the ancient dragon's lake. We learn that the ancient dragon used his magical power to link Takeru's backpack to the lake. This is because the water is saturated with mana, and naturally it's essential for this baby dragon to grow quickly. After he finishes drinking, Pi says, "Hit me one more time." But this time he doesn't drink it. He lets Takeru drink it himself. So our guy starts drinking it and finds its taste different from any water he's drunk before. It's extremely pure. Anyway, after that we see Takeru starts using the magic stones and places them around. After he finishes, he uses them to activate a magical barrier to protect them from any dangers while they sleep. He starts remembering when he was at the old man's shop and read the encyclopedia on magic stones. He saw that these stones are very important and their price is precious. Back to the present, he tries to use his power to create a magic stone, and indeed he succeeds in doing that. He then uses it as a fire source so he can cook and make some great food. Our guy here is pampering the food. He takes out a piece of lamb and starts cooking it, making some excellent soup out of it. Just as he finishes and is about to start eating, he glances at this baby dragon and sees him drooling over himself from how delicious the food is, wanting to devour it. Although our guy is hesitant at first, thinking it might be harmful since he's still a child, he decides to give him a few spoonfuls, just like any normal child. He starts gulping it down quickly, even though it's hot and burns him. Takeru says, "You idiot, didn't I tell you it's hot?" And since our guy has a big heart, he cools down the soup for him and starts feeding it to him. I is in utter bliss, to the point that this baby dragon literally melts. As for Takeru, he's happy about this because he finally found someone to share the food he eats with. Then he starts asking Pi, "Hey buddy, don't you feel lonely since you've been separated from your father?" He's surprised that the dragon gets close to him, denies feeling lonely, and confirms he doesn't feel lonely as long as he's with him. He uses the appraisal skill on him and is surprised that this creature is way stronger than him. But despite all these dirty tricks, he decides to take responsibility for protecting him, feeling that this cute dragon is very endearing to him and he can't do without him. So he starts talking to Pi and gives him some instructions, saying, "Even if you are stronger than me, you must never, under any circumstances, act recklessly, and you must always listen." He tells him, "If anything happens to you, the dragon father inside you will come and give you a serious beating." But Pi is already in another world, having gone into a deep sleep. Our guy starts remembering that when he first came to this world, he wished for a nice partner. Then he remembers Mosen, the one who brought him here, and says, "Wait a second, maybe that dude planned everything." But anyway, the next day, my friend, we see Takeru takes Pi and they start climbing the mountains until they finally reach the forest. He confirms that this is the same path he came from and that it's the same cliff he fell from. But he's surprised that the forest's appearance has completely changed. However, he tells himself that in the beginning and the end, it's considered a mysterious forest, he's in another world, and the laws he lived by don't necessarily apply to this world's law. He decides to walk around in it a bit. He also decides to seize this opportunity and start gathering some resources. He uses the search skill to focus only on rank S resources. Indeed, he finds some plants and starts collecting them. But suddenly, this cute dragon comes to him, scared of something specific. He confirms that something dangerous is coming towards them. So he uses the search skill again, this time for monsters. Through it, he can pinpoint the locations of the monsters nearby. But he says to himself, "Wait a second, before I entered the cave, there wasn't a single monster that dared to come near me. Probably because of that foul smell, no one came near." Despite that, he prepares to face these monsters, thinking that if he kills them, he'll surely get some great resources. Suddenly, buddy, we see a dangerous monster appears behind. Takeru uses the appraisal skill and learns the monster's name is Rock Vulture and it's rank C. It's very dangerous because it's a carnivorous predator. He says to himself, "If I had encountered this creature before meeting the dragon, I would have said it's savage, but it's actually cute compared to him." When he looks at the rest of its stats, he's surprised that one of its characteristics is that its meat is very tasty. He says, well, that's it, you're on the grill, prepare to be devoured. While this creature is thinking of attacking him, we see Takeru uses his magic to create a barrier around him. After that, he manages to create ice crystals in front of him. The vulture decides to attack him. He says, well, that's it, we've secured dinner for the next month. But Pai starts warning him that something is coming from behind them. Suddenly, a pack of wolves arrives where they are. He says, well, it seems we're going to have a meat feast. We see one of the wolves tries to attack him, but at the same time we see Takeru uses a self-enhancement spell, a different type of magic to make his body lighter and increase his speed. When the wolf tries to pounce on him, Takeru manages to dodge it in the blink of an eye. Then he says, not bad, and delivers a fatal blow to its head, literally finishing it off. The second one decides to seize the opportunity and attack him, but Takeru manages to block its attack and delivers a punch that sends it flying, along with the one coming behind it. After finishing the fight, he starts collecting the meat into his backpack. He also collects some other great resources. He then uses the detection skill and is surprised that more monsters are coming in his direction. He says, oh man, I can't fight all day long. We must escape once and for all. He finds Pierre grabbing him and trying to lift him, attempting to fly with both of them. He says, hey boss, what exactly are you doing? He understands that he's trying to carry him so they can fly, both of them. He tells him, dude, why didn't you say so earlier? He then uses a spell on himself to make his body light. Soon, we see the two flying at insane speed through the air. He starts talking to him, saying, calm down, buddy. By the way, we've covered a great distance. He starts convincing him to land on the ground, and indeed, that's what happens. He lets him go, and Takeru lands directly on his neck, followed by some intense tickling. We see our guy starts waking up from the coma he entered. When he starts looking around, the surprise for him is that they have left the forest and are now located on the road leading to the village he came from the first time. He understands that Pi was trying to save him from the start, and that's why he thanks him for what he did. But he says, be careful, buddy, in the end, I'm just a human, and you can't treat me the way you do. But anyway, it's clear that you've become a competent partner, and it seems I'll rely on you in the future. This makes Pi extremely happy, and he starts hugging him tightly. Takeru says, hey, I'm still human, don't be so violent. After they rest a bit, they get up and start continuing their journey. He starts getting to know Pi, they learn that if they walk on this road for 2 days, they will reach the village. Takeru notices that Pi is very attached to the stick he's holding. When he uses the appraisal skill on it, he learns it's from rank SS and that he managed to get it from a famous. Without any warning, we see Pi starts blowing on the stick. After the dust disappears, he's surprised that the stick in his hand has turned into a huge spear. Here he understands what happened. The stick, when infused with Pi's special mana, started to grow and transformed into this. Although he isn't happy with the situation, he goes back and tells himself that having a magic spear will help him a lot. But he doesn't like its appearance because anyone who sees him with it will immediately call him a sorcerer. Suddenly, while they are standing, they hear the sound of a dangerous monster coming from the forest. So Takeru asks Pi to hide behind him until he sees how far this situation. After moments, absolutely nothing happens to the point that Pi decides to leave Takeru and decides to go into the forest himself. Of course, our guy runs after this silly kid until he sees where he's going. He follows him until he sees him circling around a specific tree. When he gets close to that tree, here comes the surprise. He finds a girl lying on the ground. Her condition seems very difficult. He starts asking, what happened to you? Did a monster get you, or what's the story? Suddenly he's surprised that birds start chirping from her stomach. He says to her, she starts explaining to him that she hasn't eaten anything in 3 days, which is why she's asking him for some water, because she's extremely thirsty. Our guy doesn't hesitate and takes out a bottle of water for her to drink as much as she wants. After she devours the entire water, she starts thanking him, saying, you saved my life. And after the sound of her stomach growling, he confirms that the dangerous sound coming from the forest was the sound of her stomach, which is utterly ridiculous. He says to her, wait a second, I should have some food I bought from the hotel I was staying at before coming to the forest. Indeed, he finds a sandwich for her. The moment that girl sees it, she snatches it and starts devouring it in the finest way, overjoyed with happiness. She says to him, buddy, this food is incredibly delicious. I don't think the situation needs that much exaggeration. Anyone who is hungry and eats will find the food amazing and delicious. After that, he starts talking to her and says, no offense, but I have a few questions you must answer because I'm very confused. She says, go ahead, buddy. Look, I'm very confused. It's possible you're far from the village, but not so far that all this happens to you and you run out of all food and drink in such a short time. She says, The thing is, everything happened suddenly, and I was forced to leave the village before taking all the resources I needed. But he says to her, still, that's not a justification. The girl gets angry with him and feels that he's belittling the food he gave her. She gets close to him. He says to her, what's this, lady? The awful smell coming from you. You've ruined all my imaginations about you. I thought their smell would be great and refreshing, similar to jasmine or mint like this, but it seems your smell is similar to something called fertilizer. She says to him, what kind of nasty talk are you saying? Well, maybe his smell isn't that bad, but not to this degree. Are you stupid, buddy? What are you talking about? Anyway, I thank you very much for the food you gave me, but I must leave now. She waits for him to respond, plays with her teeth, and then runs away. After that, we see our guy sits aside and starts collecting some plants casually. After collecting everything he needs and continuing his journey, he finally exits the cursed forest once and for all. Suddenly, P.I. starts talking to him and alerts him that something is coming towards them. When our guy starts focusing a little, he's surprised to see a carriage coming from afar. He says to him, your eyesight is so sharp you could see all that distance. When the carriage reaches them, here comes the surprise. He's surprised that the horse looks strange. He uses the appraisal skill on it and learns that it's a unicorn horse. Yes, it's not fast, but it has enough physical strength to pull the carriage with complete ease. The carriage owner starts talking to Takeru and says, where are you going? Where are you coming from? What's going on with you? He says, nothing, buddy. As you see, I just came out of the forest and am on my way to Romi village. The man pulling the carriage, Mr. B, says to him, wait a second, you want to cover all that distance on foot? Takeru says, correct. And he says to him, you're crazy, that's very difficult for you. But then he notices the stick he's holding and says, wait a second, are you a sorcerer or what's the deal? Takeru says to him, no man, it's nothing like that. I use this stick to collect some resources and start trading with them and all that. The carriage owner says, you specialize in gathering resources, that's very difficult and rare. He says, anyway, buddy, we are currently heading to Romi village. What do you say you come with us? He says, thank you, buddy, but be careful, my body is a bit large. From here, the children, as soon as they come out, start laughing at his appearance. The driver says, no problem, buddy, ride with us. He gets into the carriage. We see the children start joking with him. He's surprised by this because ever since he came to this world, children have liked him in this strange way, and this has made things a bit easier for him. Naturally, since children like him, the parents don't worry about it. As for the carriage owner and his wife, they start introducing themselves, but we don't need their names for anything. They tell him that in their village, they made a decision that they must help anyone in need. So the children get close to Takeru and start offering him some sweets. Takeru says, wait a second, buddy, aren't you afraid I might be an evil man and kidnap everything you own? He says, no, none of that talk. You don't look evil at all. You're a silly person. If you really had any bad intentions towards us, our bell would have started ringing. Then they show him the magical tool through which they can detect the intentions of any person who decides to attack them or has evil intentions towards them. He says, wow, this thing is extremely useful. It seems I might be able to make it with magic stones later. After that, he starts talking to them and introduces himself, saying his name is Takeru. While they are sitting, we see P starts moving a little. The children, as soon as they hear his sound, say, what? Seriously, do you have a monster? He becomes worried about the situation and doesn't want to reveal PI. He tells them, I have a monster with me and he's quite rare. But the mother reassures him and lets him know that adventurers usually travel with monsters, so it's easy. This reassures our guy and he decides to show PI to them. The moment they see him, they are in utter bliss and excitement. The mother says, wait a second, where did you get this thing? They start learning that he had an egg in the forest and managed to use his magical power to make it hatch. This amazes them greatly as this is very rare. Yes, there are dragon knights, but they are also rare. As for a real dragon, it's much rarer than them. So he says to himself, if there are really other dragon knights in this world, then I must meet them and learn from them as much as possible. At the end of the day, they decide to camp together in the forest. Here, we see Takeru tries to use the magic stones, obviously to create a barrier through them to protect them from any monsters that might think of attacking. The mother says, leave the food matter to me. I'll prepare some food for you with complete hospitality. But Takeru says, no, but lady, I'm treating you to food today. He takes out some spices, meats and all that, and starts cooking. The children naturally, the moment they see him taking out these things, are amazed and say, are you a sorcerer? He says to them, no, all there is to it is that my backpack is called an item box and I can store anything I want in it. After that, we see Takeru starts preparing food for them and makes some incredibly tasty food for them. When they start eating, buddy, here comes the amazement for them. It's the first time they've eaten food with such deliciousness and flavor to the point that the father of the family starts shedding tears, crying and says, Buddy, we've been on this journey for about 10 days and all we've eaten is dry food, cured meat, and dry bread. You know, life was dry for me, but this food... No, you've done so many things for us. After they finish everything and before they sleep we see them start singing and dancing, something utterly crazy. So when sleep time comes we see Takaru starts thinking about everything happening to him. Yes, I was living a stable life in my previous life, but I was always alone, all by myself, and it was extremely boring. But ever since I came to this world, I understood what it means to share food with other people and to laugh heartily. Truly,